Just yesterday, we did a story that I said could have been the craziest story we've ever done around here. Well, it didn't take long for one to pop up to give it a little bit of competition. Now, the story we did yesterday was crazy as crazy can get. There was a high school student, a white cheerleader was murdered by a black football player in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a high school. And her cheerleader buddies wanted to honor her at a football game, and the school board said, no, we can't honor the dead girl unless we also at the same time honor the killer who's in jail for her murder, because somehow that would seem unfair. Yes, that's about as crazy as it gets. But this story, this story we're going to hear is very crazy. Maybe it's crazier in its own way. Maybe it's not, but it is up there. It starts off simple enough, something we've heard around here a lot. 4 fellas go hijack a car in Houston, Texas. Car runs out of gas. They go hijack another one. They beat the crap out of a priest, threaten him with a gun. So far, so good. Cops show up. 3 of the fellas run. One of the fellas gets into a fight with the cop, takes his gun, shoots the cop with his own gun. Okay, that's pretty bad. Then it turns out a week or two before, there was a story about how a week or two before he had just been let out of jail on no bond for doing another carjacking. Okay, so that's getting up there, right? So far, so bad. So far, so crazy. Now, but here's where it really gets crazy in the story you're about to see. Everything took place while 2 miles away, less than 2 miles away, at Texas Southern University, a black university, as we heard 100 times that night, 2 miles away, the Democrats were having one of their debates, presidential debates, and a good chunk of that debate was spent talking about black victimization, white racism, too many black people in prison because too many white people are messing with black people all the time for no reason whatsoever. And you put all those things together, along with a national class denial, deceit, delusion from all of those presidential candidates, and you know what? This video goes right up to close to the top.
All right, an HPD officer in the hospital with 3 gunshot wounds, and police say 4 suspects are to blame. More on the wild night of violence and the officer's condition.
Change is coming to 2 local parks after 2 girls and their grandfather are shocked by an electrical box. The mayor's announcement today.
And a night of dog sitting ends with 2 women in the hospital viciously attacked by the dog. We're going to tell you how they are doing tonight. First, that Houston police officer out of surgery now, and we understand in stable condition. That's certainly good news. This after that night of violence that left 1 suspect dead, 2 others arrested, and 1 on the run.
Yeah, just a terrifying night. ABC 13's Courtney Fisher has more on the crime spree that left an HPD officer with 3 gunshot wounds. Courtney?
And Melanie, in the last hour, we just learned that the officer was shot by his own gun. HPD Chief Art Acevedo told us that here in front of the hospital just after he visited with that officer who is still here. But good news, he says the officer is up, he's stable, he even took a few steps, but he will be in this hospital for quite a long time. Let's talk about those 4 suspects. 1 of them shot and killed during a shootout, 2 of the suspects arrested, and 1 police are still looking for this evening.
Chaos on Scott Street, the end of a crime spree that left 1 officer shot with his own gun and 1 man, a suspect, dead. It happened minutes after the debate wrapped up at TSU just a few miles down the road. The night started with a carjacking at a Valero gas station. Investigators say 4 suspects stole a Tahoe, then ran out of gas. Stranded on the road, they happened upon a priest, Chief Art Acevedo says. The group attacked Father Desmond, left him bloodied and bruised, took off with his cell phone, then carjacked a second person. Police say they stole her Ford F-150 and led officers on a chase, eventually dumping the truck on Scott Street. There was a police shootout. A 29-year-old officer was shot with his own gun multiple times.
He remembered everything very vividly in terms of the fight for his life with this suspect, as we said earlier, that there was a struggle, there was a fight. There was a fight for the officer's weapon. He lost control of his weapon, and he got shot with his own weapon by the suspect.
Last night, I had a chance to talk to the father as well as the mother, and you could tell the father was shaken up.
And of course, that was Houston Councilman Dwight Boykins. He was here at the hospital last night, also today, visiting this officer and the family. And Boykins, like many other officials, were at that debate hall last night. In fact, they went from the debate hall to the hospital. If you were watching the debate, you know that gun control was a huge issue, talked about extensively last night. Coming up at 6, we're going to dive deeper into that. Art Acevedo, not shy about his feelings about how he says laws need to change.
It would have been nice if somebody asked Cory Booker about that during the debate. Whenever we let somebody out of prison that should be, or jail on no bail, that should be in jail, there's really one of the undercurrents is something we say around here, but something that people don't. I think sometimes people think, hey, Colin, that's a good line, but I know you're just exaggerating to make a point. Whenever we say crime is the new black entitlement. So check out this story from down the, I forget where it's from, south somewhere. 3 fellas in masks, one with a gun. They take a shot at a homeowner. The homeowner comes out, kills all 3 of them. And now we've got people saying, A, the homeowner never should have done that, and B, we want some accountability, meaning revenge.
It is being called a robbery gone bad. 3 teenage robbery suspects killed in a shootout with a homeowner, and we've learned 2 of them were brothers. Now their family's hoping to get more answers. Latasha Givens live in the newsroom, and Latasha, deputies believe one of the teens opened fire first.
That's right, Sheba, and the family wants more information. The Rockdale County Sheriff's Office says 2 of the teen suspects, a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old, were killed during an exchange of gunfire after the attempted robbery. The Sheriff's Office says their friend, another teen who was with them, was also shot and killed. Deputies say the teens had their faces covered as they approached the residence and attempted to rob 3 individuals in the front yard. Deputies also say one of the attempted robbery suspects brandished a handgun and fired shots at the residence before one of the intended robbery victims returned fire. The aunt of the brother spoke with us, saying the family is just desperate for answers.
I hope that someone could come forward and let us know what's going on, because this is like devastating to my family that's going on. These are 3 young teens that are dead now, and we all love them.
I want to see everybody get somebody that you love, hold them close, because they there for you. I'm the one there. I'm the one there.
A grieving family and hundreds of community members gathering for a vigil for 3 teenagers killed in what deputies are calling a robbery gone bad. Deborah Tuff live in the newsroom right now. And Deb, the shooting now has the community calling for healing and also accountability.
That's right, Sheba. At the vigil yesterday evening, no one talked about what happened. Instead, about 300 people returned to the spot where they were gunned down. Instead, they said this isn't how those young boys' lives should have ended. Now, Monday, Isaiah Reed, Jaime Hernandez, and Brandon Gresham were gunned down during a botched robbery. That's according to deputies. During the vigil, community leaders call for change. Others grieve, trying to understand what happened. But then there's the homeowner, the one deputies said was merely defending himself when the teens approached his home at 4 in the morning wearing masks. Investigators say one of the teens fired first, then the homeowner returned fire, killing all 3. Now, there were 2 other people in that home's front yard who saw the shooting. They were interviewed, but what we don't know is what they said until the official report is released, Sheba.
While investigators worked the scene,
he didn't have to kill them.
Frustration from this group, who wouldn't give their names, but told my colleague Sophia Choi they're related to one of the teens who died.
That's not how it's supposed to go. I understand one shot to stop the people, the victims or whatever, but aggressively to shoot these little teens, that's an overkill. That's too much to handle.
I mean, when those kids were sitting there talking about how the homeowner should not have shot those 3 people coming up into his house, that's about as clear of a statement as crime being the new black entitlement as we're going to get. All right, let's go down to another high school age murder story. They seem to be coming in droves into my email box.
Right now, an arrest has been made in the shooting death of a White Station High graduate. Tallis Bonds is charged with first-degree murder in the death of Jack Leibel. And you might remember back September 2nd, Leibel was shot and killed on Clifton Avenue in Fraser after being lured to that location. He was only 18 years old.
That didn't seem to be a very big deal to that television station, did it? Fella kills a white kid, lures him down with the promise of maybe they were doing, I don't know what they were doing there. I don't know if they were doing Xbox sale from a Facebook sale group. I don't know if somebody was buying or selling a couple of joints or whatever, but whatever it was no big deal. I mean, why make a big deal about it if crime is the new black entitlement?
Vicious death investigation now underway in Minneapolis. There was a fire in the 2600 block of 13th Avenue South right around midnight. After putting out that fire, firefighters say they found a man dead inside. Police are saying the fire is not to blame for the man's death. It also is not caused by a medical condition. So the investigation underway. At this point, no one is in custody. It's not.
I wish I could tell you that was about as crazy as you get around here, but it's not. There was a fella broke into a white guy's house. White guy was around 60-something years old. The fella overpowered him, and he spent the next couple of hours taking everything he could find in that house and stabbing him with it over 100 times. And when he was done torturing, robbing, killing him, set the house on fire, hoping nobody could figure it out. They figured it out. That dude has an arrest record of over 40 convictions. Yet he's still out on the street knocking on people's doors at night, asking for a glass of water, an iPhone, directions to his school, or $1.67 to go to his grandmother's funeral. Okay, now, talk about crime being the new black entitlement. You guys remember this, like 2 summers ago. A woman was going into her apartment in St. Louis, her apartment building or condo building, and she tried to close the door behind her. And there was a fella trying to get in. He wouldn't let her close it because she wanted him to get in with it to use a key, right? All of a sudden, this woman became a villain all over the country. She was scorned because white people don't have any reason to police black people. It wasn't that woman's business that that fella was trying to get into her condo building while just coming in behind while on her using her key in effect. This was a huge deal. We've seen 1 or 2 of these stories since. They all become huge deals. The fella's up there holding up a camera going, "I'm going to make you famous, you racist dog." But in the time that's happened, we've probably done 10 or 15 stories about how fellas lurk around apartment building doors, wait for somebody to go in, and they follow them in, and bad business happens. And this is another one of those stories. So how many of these stories do we have to see? These are new ones, okay? I'm not going back into the ancient past to dig these up. These are new stories that we're getting here every day. For every one you see here, I'm leaving 20 behind in my mailbox, my email box.
Please, sir, I want some more.
How many of these do we have to see before somebody starts saying, hey, there's something going on in this country? Not only is black crime and violence wildly out of proportion, and not only is denial, deceit, and delusion from reporters and public officials they're weaving a really thick cocoon around this whole thing. Now we've got people on national TV, reporters and people running for president of the United States who are trying to convince us the problem is not black crime and dysfunction. It is white racism, white dysfunction that's causing all this black crime. I don't know if I go along with that. But I do know this. I know what all those Democrats running for president know. To call out the fellas for their crime, violence, entitlement, vengeance. That'll make the black kids angry.